Good day, everyone. So I've been off the air for a little while because it was the biggest festival in Bengal recently, and we call it Durga Puja. And although I didn't show my face to the goddess because of the fact that I'm in mourning for my mother, generally most people in the city were wandering around, and now it seems there might be a third wave. But it was also my birthday, and that went pretty well. But I'm back today, and the story I've got for you today is Crooner by Kazuo Ishiguro. Now, there is one more thing I want to say before I get into the whim of things, as PD Woodhouse would say, which is that this week on Sunday, I'm going to be doing a horror story by Stephen King. It's called The Graveyard Shift. And I am really excited because Halloween is a very famous holiday and it's one of my favorite holidays. And when I first moved into this housing society where I stay right now, kids used to come trick or treating on Halloween. I don't know how many of them are going to come this time, given that the COVID is there, but I'd like to think that a few will arrive knocking on my door, some dressed as zombies. But yes, there will be a Halloween special on the channel, so be sure to be there. Sunday is the day. Now, Kazuo Ishiguro's Crooner. So this story is all about music. It's from his collection of stories about the night and music called Nocturnes, and that is how I first came across this story. I got hold of a PDF of Nocturnes from a friend of mine who mailed it to me because I was looking to get into Ishiguro, and he said that I would enjoy this. So I got it and I started reading it, and this one story jammed in my head. You know how it is with my head, with stories constantly jamming in them a lot, and I really liked it, and I always wanted to do an Ishiguro. So here it is. So it begins with this one guitarist playing at the piazza in Italy, in Venice to be precise. And while he's playing, he suddenly recognizes one of his musical idols, a certain gardener. And he goes over to his table at the end of the set and he sits with Gardner. And these are the notes, by the way. So he sits with Gardner and he talks a lot with Gardner. He tells Gardner about how his mother used to listen to Gardner's records, and she got very upset once when one of the said records was scratched by this guy, this protagonist, whose name is John. So John accidentally scratched one of these records, and his mother was furious and yelled at him. Of course, then when the war broke out, he was shifted to Warsaw, and he managed to smuggle the records back for his mother one at a time on shore leaves, and he replaced that scratched record first and foremost. And by the time he had replaced all these records, which were already worn out, his mother was much more appeased. And Gardner's got an absent-minded look on his face. He's seems to be looking for somebody, but he's also listening to our protagonist. But he does seem preoccupied. And suddenly, a very attractive woman in her 50s minimum walks up to their table and sits down. And Gardner says, "This is Jan, and this is my wife, Linda." So Gardner and Linda start talking, and Linda starts asking the protagonist a few questions, such as, "Why do you play the guitar? And what does that oval-shaped hole mean in your guitar thing? And are you from an occupied country?" To which Gan replies that no, I am not, because we've recently become a democracy. And for some reason, Gardner doesn't like this line of questioning, and he tells Lydia that you shouldn't be rude to him. And Lydia's like, "I'm not being rude to him. I'm just being curious about it. I've never met someone like this before. Surely you understand. Tell me, am I being rude to you?" And slightly embarrassed, Jan says that no, you're not. You're just being curious. I have taken no offense to what you've said, Mrs. Gardner. Anyway, after some time of this give and take, um, Lydia gets up from the table. Sorry, just give me a second. Lindy, not Lydia. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Lindy. So Lindy gets up from the table and says that I'm going back into that Prada store and I'm going to be a while in there. That's what I wanted to come out to tell you. And then I met Mr. John and I'm going back in there. I just wanted to say that I'll be taking a little longer than before. And so she leaves them together discussing various things. And then suddenly Gardner's got a very serious look in his eyes. And he asks our protagonist, Jan, whether Jan would be able to help him. So Jan says, Mr. Gardner, you have been an influence on me. I feel I owe you. So what is it that you need me to do? He says, just bring your guitar down to the bridge near this location and I'm going to sing to my wife. You see, our marriage is falling apart. And Gardner says, okay, I'll do it. Jan says, I'll do it. So he brings his guitar and he meets Gardner. And there's some beautiful descriptive language here which I can't go into right now. But if you ever do pick up this this story, if you ever do pick up this story, then please go through. The language is simply lyrical, absolutely lyrical, which is why this particular story is one of my most favorite ones. I strongly recommend that you read it. So, the scene is now night in Venice. There is a gondola paddler called Vittorio who is not very popular with Jan because Jan and Vittorio have been at crossroads before, where Vittorio says shit about Jan and Jan knows that he says shit about Jan, but Vittorio always denies that he's saying shit about Jan to his face. So, in that situation, we find ourselves, with one half of a pair of star-crossed lovers, and the gondola pushes off, and it takes one circuit around the perimeter of the block, and then it takes another. And throughout this, the conversation is something like this. Um, Jan is curious as to why the marriage is ending. And each time he asks the question, isn't it like you wrote in your songs that when two people are in love, they should stay in love, they should stay together, they shouldn't just split. And to this, Gardner replies, "You see, my friend, you're not from here. You're not very familiar with all of this. Maybe that is why you're talking like this. If you were from this country, you would not really ask such a question. I don't mean to be offensive. I don't mean to be uh, rude to you. Believe me, that is the last of my intentions. But that's just how the cookie's crumbling right now. And you see, Lindy is still young. She's still beautiful. If she wants, she can fall in love again. And if I want, I can come make a comeback. And somehow I don't see Lindy in that equation. But still, I'm trying to save my marriage because I love her. And this part made me tear up. This particular conversation made me tear up. And I was left vacantly staring at the cover of the, or rather, I was reading it on my laptop. So I was just froze out for a second, just zoned out completely, and stared at the letters on my screen for quite some time before I could muster the courage to read on again. And so on the third circuit, as I was saying, suddenly Gardner notices that a light in a window is on. And he says, okay, stop the gondola. And he starts out with his first song. And he's singing, and suddenly at the noise of his singing, Lindy comes out onto the balcony. And Gardner says that, look, I'm singing to you, and please listen. I want this to be like it used to be. And Lindy's like, it's cold outside, I'll catch a chill. So Gardner's like, okay, go back into the room, but keep the windows open and the shutters open. You'll be able to hear me perfectly. And he launches into his first song, he launches into his second song, and he wraps it up with the third song. And when the third song is over, there's complete pin drop silence from Gardner in the gondola. And they can just hear the sound of a woman having a breakdown, sobbing hysterically. Absolutely hysterically. Gardner's shoulders sort of droop and his face turns very serious. And he just says, drop me off over here. And he gets out of the gondola. He pays the man who's been rowing the gondola. The man accepts his money and goes off. And he then turns to the protagonist and he tells the protagonist that, look, here's some compensation for you. And although the money being offered is way too much, and although the protagonist is very, very embarrassed and says, no, no, you were an influence, I didn't want to take money from you, Gardner insists. And that is where they part. They part on the note that perhaps for the rest of the time they're in Venice, there might be a chance that Gardner will come back to the cafe square at the Piazza and they'll hear Jan playing again. But that never happens. And we don't even know if we can only guess if what happens next. What I choose to believe is that he does make the comeback. And unfortunately, it costs him his marriage. So, boys and girls, ladies, gentlemen, literature lovers, people who've put up with my shit for so long, that was Crooner by Kazuo Ishiguro. And as I said earlier, this Halloween there's going to be a special episode called For It's Halloween, and it's going to be about Stephen King. I have to warn you, if you are scared of rats, please do not listen at all. Just don't even come near me if you're scared of rats, because this one's pretty freaking scary, and it's all about rats, you know. And on that note, this is the Master signing off. We're gonna beat this pandemic surely and slowly. Things will be okay. Gotta have some faith. Stay safe, stay vigilant. Good day to you.